Hello and welcome. Today, we're jumping into the absolutely epic story of education in India. Seriously, it's a journey that spans thousands of years. We're talking ancient hermitages all the way to world-class tech institutes. And it's a story shaped not just by outside forces, but by the incredible, powerful vision of Indians themselves. So, to really get a handle on where India is today, we've got to ask this one big question. And, this isn't just about classrooms and degrees. Nope. It's about how a deep rooted culture of learning has been nurtured, challenged, and totally reborn over centuries. And our story really kicks off right here, in places like Nalanda. Just look at this. This wasn't just some building, it was a legendary global hub for knowledge, pulling in scholars from all over Asia. It's such a powerful symbol of a time when India was a beacon of learning for the entire world, long, long before the modern era. Okay, so let's dig into that foundation. What did learning actually look like way back in ancient and medieval India? Well, I think you'll be surprised. It was way more sophisticated and widespread than most people imagine. At the heart of it all was the Gurukula system. I mean, just picture it. Students literally living with their teacher, their guru, absorbing not just facts and figures, but a whole way of life. And the curriculum? It was incredibly diverse. Everything from memorizing sacred Vedic hymns to really practical sciences like math and medicine. And what's really amazing is how widespread this was. This wasn't just for a tiny elite group. You had brilliant women like the poet Abhayar shaping literature and culture. We have archaeological finds from a place called Kiladi, dating back to the 6th century BCE, that show high literacy among regular folks. Think about that. And the culture just deeply valued knowledge. There's even a text from a Sangam-era king who said that a learned person, no matter their social class, would be respected by everyone. You can really see how learning evolved over time. Knowledge was painstakingly preserved on these beautiful palm leaf manuscripts, and it was taught in temples and monasteries. Then later, during the medieval period, madrasas popped up as these really important centers for subjects like law, literature, and logic, often funded and supported by the whole community. But this vibrant, homegrown ecosystem of learning was about to face its biggest challenge yet. The arrival of Europeans, especially the British, was going to introduce a completely new system with a whole new set of priorities. And this shift, well, it happened kind of gradually and then all at once. At first, the British approach was a bit of a mix. They showed some support for traditional learning, like founding the Calcutta Madrasa. The Charter Act of 1813 even set aside money for Indian literature, though, fun fact, it was never even used. But the real turning point, the game changer, came in 1835 with Thomas Babington Macaulay. His vision changed absolutely everything, and it led directly to the first British-style universities in 1857. And you can see the whole idea summed up right here, in Macaulay's own words. The goal wasn't to support India's existing learning systems anymore. The new goal was to actively push European knowledge using English as the main language. And that, well, that set the stage for a really profound cultural and educational clash. And this is the most important part of the story. This is where things take a powerful, fascinating turn. This wasn't just a story of colonial ideas being forced on people. No way. It sparked an incredible response from within India itself, a kind of Indian educational renaissance, led by Indian thinkers who had their own bold vision for a modern India. And a perfect example of this is the Hindu College in Calcutta. Just look at that date, 1817. This was founded decades before Macaulay wrote his famous Minute, and it was done with the initiative and funding of Indians themselves. They weren't just sitting around waiting to be told what to learn. They were actively building the future they wanted to see. This was a movement driven by some truly remarkable people. So let's meet a few of these key pioneers who laid the groundwork for modern Indian education, totally on their own terms. First up, the great social reformer, Raja Rammohan Roy. He was a huge force behind that Hindu college we just saw, but he didn't want to just copy the West, and he didn't want to reject it either. He argued for what he called an enlightened system that blended the best of both worlds, championing the teaching of modern, useful sciences like chemistry and mathematics. And then you have the absolute revolutionary Jyotiba Phule. In 1848, he and his wife, Savitribai Phule, did something that was truly radical for the time. They opened a school specifically for girls from marginalized communities. This was a direct challenge to the rigid social hierarchies. using education as a powerful tool for social change. And in a very similar spirit, you have Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. He saw the need for modern education within the Muslim community. So in 1875, he founded the Mohammedan Anglo School, which would eventually grow into the prestigious Aligarh Muslim University, a perfect blend of modern science and rich cultural heritage. And this vision, it went way beyond just arts and social reform. It went right into the hard sciences. You had Indian philanthropists like Jamsetji Tata looking far into the future, founding the world-class Indian Institute of Science way back in 1909. The goal was crystal clear: build a scientifically and technologically self-reliant India on India's own terms. So all of these threads, the ancient traditions, the colonial-era challenges, and that powerful Indian response, they all came together after independence in 1947. The mission now was to take this complex foundation and build a modern nation on top of it. And one of the very first things the new government did was chart its own course. The 1948 Education Commission, which was headed by the famous philosopher Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, was given the huge task of reimagining the entire university system to fit the needs and dreams of a newly free nation. And the results since then? They have been absolutely staggering. I mean, just look at this chart. In 1951, female literacy was under 9%, less than 1 in 10. By 2021, it had skyrocketed to over 71%. That is the direct legacy of pioneers like the Pules, whose tiny little school in Pune really did start a revolution. And that expansion has been explosive across the board. In 1956, India had just 58 institutes for higher learning. Fast forward to 2018, and that number had leaped to over 900. It just shows you this incredible national commitment to that vision of education for all. And today, that brings us to institutions like the Indian Institutions of Technology, the IITs, which are renowned all over the world. They really represent the culmination of this whole long journey, a synthesis of ancient intellectual curiosity and modern scientific ambition, all of it driven by that unwavering Indian spirit. So, from the ancient Gurukulas to the modern global tech hubs of today, the story of education in India is just this incredible tale of resilience, of adaptation, and of relentless progress. And it leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. What on earth will the next chapter be?